What if real power came from softness? Today we're talking divine masculine energies, sexuality, and how men can truly bonk better. Hello and welcome to Real Men Feel. I'm your host, author, coach, and healer, Andy Grant. Visit theandygrant.com to learn more about me. We have conversations that most men are not having, but that all men and the women who love them can benefit from. My guest today is love, sex, and relationship coach, Melanie Bonk. Melanie is dedicated to helping you bonk better by releasing trauma, breaking free from conditioning, and unlocking the deep pleasure and connection your body craves. Today is really a fantastic show, as Melanie shares insights around sexual expression, primal love, and getting men beyond that limiting box that says sex is only performance-based. Let's do it. Hi, and welcome to Real Men Feel, Melanie.
Hi, Andy. Thank you so much for having me.
I've got to start with an obvious question that I imagine you get asked all the time. Did you grow up with the name Melanie Bonk?
Nope, I married into the name and I feel like I'm really doing it proud. So,
Awesome. Yeah, what was it like to grow up with that name? But it's going to be you got to really love that man to
yes,
take that last name proudly.
yes. And now we've got kids and they're owning the name all the way as well.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. So, how did you come to this path of helping people work on their primal sexuality? Like what was your childhood like that made that be your interest?
Honestly, it was a combination of my mom being so pleasure positive and kind of a rebel. I got a different kind of sex education than my friends got. I got really permission to understand that pleasure is important and it's juicy and delicious. She was really open and honest about it. But then I also suffered from divorce. My parents were divorced and I was kind of in the middle of that turmoil. There was no conscious uncoupling back in the 80s. So I also saw the things that I didn't want in relationships. I saw the things that I did want. And so I was really actually conscious of that moving into my soul partnership and really dedicated to creating a space that was full of sex, full of love, deep, deep, deep understanding and respect for one another. But it took a lot of work to get to where we are now, and we went through a lot of healing. So it's a combination of like understanding and knowing pleasure is so yummy and juicy, but also understanding to get to that juicy level. There's a lot of internal healing and a lot of actually inner child wounds that need to get healed on that journey.
I've seen you describe your work with men as helping them break free from the box that they've been trapped in.
Yeah.
What does that box look like to you today for men?
Whew. That box looks like performance based to start out with. So it's all about performance. Am I a good lover? What can I do with just this one body part, which is usually the penis? Um, and and really unpacking the fact that your body is this connection, this portal to spirituality. And with that connection, with that openness, men can dive into really their primal purpose, their divine masculine energy. And it's um it's really empowering. And I just feel like I've seen so many times again where couples come to me and I think the stereotype is that the woman is more insecure, but I feel like men are so vulnerable, or they're so afraid to be vulnerable, really. And that's a lot of the work that we do is just opening up and letting men be able to feel, letting men actually bring their consciousness down into their body, out of their mind, and then opening up that heart space. So it's just this beautiful, like I said, coming out of a box, but it's like blooming out of a box. It's so beautiful and natural for men to be doing this work.
Can you explain how embodying the divine masculine is different from traditional notions of masculinity?
Oh, yes. Well, you want to do traditional notions of masculinity first. Like, I only feel happy, angry, and mad. I only have sex in one particular way. I am a protector and a provider, and that's all that my value sits. So when we start to unpack that and move over to this divine masculine, it's this presence, this essence that men can carry, and that really, to me, provides so much safety when men are in that open, vulnerable state. And that divine masculine energy is so tender, so emotional. There are, we all feel the same amount of emotions, but we just sometimes don't have the vocabulary to label them. So when the divine masculine is there, that energy, it really, for me, I know in my own partnership, it allows me to surrender in a different level. And then I get to experience full body orgasm wave after wave after wave because I can so lean into my partner, into his divine masculine energy. And that opens up the portal to my body. So it's like this beautiful yin yang looping of energy and yumminess.
You mentioned primal purpose. Is that different from divine masculinity?
Well, I don't know. So I really believe that we're all primal creatures. Like I love to say, I work in sexual empowerment and primal love, and that primal love, that primal purpose, all begins with self. So when you love yourself on a primal level, that's when we can start to unlock the energy and the ecstasy that our bodies are actually meant to design. We're born with these holistic sex tools and they're available to our bodies, but we have to like break free of all that conditioning, all the stories, all the imprints to be able to access that primal love and that primal energy that gets activated in our bodies. So, primal holistic tools that every human is equipped with is breath work, mindfulness, movement, sounding. Men are very quiet, I feel like, when it comes to sounding in the bedroom. And so when we allow sound to come out like real guttural, vibral sounds, there's so many layers of pleasure that it flows through our whole body. It rubs against the vagus nerve in our throats, and that actually gives calming energy throughout the whole body. And sounding can actually uplift the orgasm to be out of just the pelvic floor and all the way up the body. So there's these primal levels that we get to discover and unwrap like a beautiful gift from nature.
As a man opens to his divine masculine energy, is it also important to open up to his own feminine energy as well?
Yeah, I believe that we all have both of these energies inside of us. I also believe that by putting them in masculine and feminine language is a way for our brain to is a way for our brain to uh categorize things and make lists of things, but they're all natural within all of our bodies. Like I love to unpack divine masculine and divine feminine, and I love to also like honor it in our bodies. So it's like something that can't be really defined, I feel like, but also that we're using those words to categorize it so we can understand it better. You know what I mean?
How do you, yeah. So, how do you help a man open up and be willing to balance his feminine and masculine energies without them thinking they're giving up something, giving up their own strength or power?
Mm. Looking at the what could come out of it. So you have to kind of do like a little bit of prediction, a little bit of like desire mapping as to what the goal is. And mm, once we have a desire, so like let's say I have a desire to open up my divine feminine and my divine masculine and have this flow through my body. Okay, what does that look like? So I have the desire. Then I need to really kind of get clear on what that vision is going to look like. And with that information downloaded in your body, you start moving towards that. So I think it's a lot to do with A, first having the desire, and then B, getting clear onto what it is that the outcome might be for you.
You mentioned men being fearful of their own vulnerability, at least to begin with. What helps shift that resistance?
Mm. Again, desire. We're always working number one with desire. So if someone comes to me and they've got no desire to do this work, we're not going to get very far.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
yeah. So it's really unpacking what it is desire you're desiring. So I want to have more connection with my partner. Okay, that might be the fact that we need to open up that vulnerability. So I have a desire to have more connection with my partner. And then to get there, that means I need to start understanding my own emotions a little bit deeper, start labeling them a little bit more. And so that's just bringing consciousness to what we're feeling in the body. So I'm a somatic coach. I'm always helping people get into their body and out of the like thinking part of the brain. So once we're in the thinking loop, then that's usually where judgments live. So if I'm thinking that I'm feeling tender and soft right now, and that must make me less of a man, then there's the judgment and the shame that comes in. But when we take a deep breath in and we start to actually feel what's in the body, then we're connected to what's authentic for us, what we're actually experiencing.
To make sure everyone's on the same page, especially if they aren't familiar with some of these terms, could you define tantric and somatic healing?
Sure. So, for me, Tantra is a practice of bringing spirituality and divinity into literally everything I do every day. So, whether that's looking out the window at the beautiful trees and the blue sky and the sun, not only am I seeing that environment as divine, as full of God, goddess, godex energy, but it also means that I'm a part of it. So when I look at nature, and let's say I'm looking at a beautiful sunset and I'm just breathless, I can't, it's just so stunning. I take a moment, I'm like, I'm also a part of that stunning nature. My body, just as it is, without any changing, is just as beautiful as that sunset. And therefore, that means my pleasure is that same gorgeous blooming of that sunset and the colors. So for me, Tantra is bringing spirituality into that, whether I'm doing the dishes and I'm sitting there just in a meditative state doing the dishes. It's a God, goddess, godex type of energy. I can be there, I can be present, I can be so full of gratitude while doing the small things that sometimes make us feel miserable. We're creating our own suffering with that, with when we dip out of gratitude. So that's how I look at Tantra, and then when we apply those principles to sex, then we get into neo tantra, and that's so our pleasure is sacred, orgasm is sacred, bliss is sacred. It's divine energy flowing through my body. And for me, I was always looking for spirituality, but I clashed against any kind of church and organized religion. But when I learned the tantric practices and the principles about how everything is holy, us talking right now is this divine experience full of that divine energy. It was really like coming home to my body. It was so radical to come home to my body and be like, wow, I am a spiritual creature. It's not outside of me, it's in me. And then so somatic work is now looking at what's in me. So what am I feeling in this body? What are the different areas of my body? Why are they holding tension? Why are they hurting? And what message does it have to me? Is it sending me? So oftentimes chronic illness, autoimmune issues, they can be linked to very traumatic events in our lives. Like our body literally holds the score, keeps the score. It's a beautiful book, The Body Keeps the Score. So it's listening to the body and it's starting to unpack what the body is saying, and then we get to befriend it. We get to understand it. We get to get that wisdom from what our body is carrying. Does that
Yeah.
make sense? The
I
two divisions?
Yeah, no, and I get it. In my experience, I always knew somatic meant physical, being really of the body and listening to the body's wisdom and messages
Mhm,
for us, as opposed to just like I think a lot of men just going numb and like as long
mhm,
as my body gets me from place to place, that's the extent of my awareness of my own body. And I really appreciate your explanation of tantra because I'm only familiar with tantric in relation to sex.
mhm,
So I love the notion of bringing your divinity into everything that you do.
mhm.
For men who have never explored either of these, what's a good place to start?
A good place to start is inside of your body. So I'm always gonna start there. So also I take all my clients through parts work and internal family systems. So really listening to your body, listening to the voices in your mind. So the mind is so powerful and it's been imprinted on so many different levels from the minute, actually even before we're born, from when we're in womb space. Um, so when we start to it's not discrediting the mind, it's understanding who's speaking in the mind. So to start out, you can hear that voice in your head, hear the thoughts. It's really beautiful to start this practice, even looking in a mirror. So staring in a mirror for a minute and try as hard as you can just to be looking at yourself with loving presence, with that divine energy flowing through. And then the game is to catch yourself. Catch yourself when the self-critic starts talking, or catch yourself when you hear voices that are disempowering, and you can ask yourself then, whose voice is that? And when we start to label those parts of the mind and the subconscious that come in and really dictate our life, that's empowerment. That's moving towards really owning what you want to experience. We get to choose our own reality. So if I'm going to let the inner critic take over and listen, my reality is going to be pretty shitty because my inner critic is a bitch. So and then you can just play with it too. So I have fun with my inner critic. She just came up the other day, and I was looking at a video of myself, and the inner critic was like, "Rah, rah, 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 look at your belly," and it took me less than 10 seconds to recognize that she was speaking, have fun with her, and put her back in her corner, and then move into empowerment. So it's a practice. It's just like using any new tool or using any new muscle. So that is definitely a beautiful first step that anybody can start now. And it's just listening and labeling the voices in our head. Usually those voices try to keep us small and safe.
Right. You mentioned that your mom really raised you valuing pleasure and
Mhm.
the importance of that. What role does play and pleasure have in healing and in sex?
Um, Huge in my opinion. Like one of the number one things for me is play. And I am raising four teenage boys right now. So I'm in this realm of allowing them and giving them permission. And so one of the things that I've really instilled in them is that I call it self pleasuring because I feel like masturbation has kind of like a little bit negative energy around it. So I talk to the kids about, when you're self pleasuring, this is a time to honor your body, and this is a time to give yourself nourishment, care, loving touch. And then I'm also realistic with them and be like, okay, maybe on a Wednesday morning before school, you don't have time for that. But at least once a week, I want to encourage you and every human out there to meet themselves with that love, with that presence, with that nourishment, and not make it such a habitual, uh, goal orientated practice. So, self pleasuring can be so playful, and self pleasuring can be whole body for every human. And when we give ourselves that nourishment, then we aren't putting so much pressure on our partner. We're connecting to that. For me, I connect to that divine energy, have it flow through, invite it to flow through my body, and it can be playful. Put a smile on your face while you're enjoying pleasure. Like it actually, for me, it increases pleasure if I'm like, this is really good. I'm really enjoying myself. Oh wait, I'm having a lot of fun right now. Put a smile on my face, and then it's like, boom.
Cool. Yeah, from you mentioned this men being silent earlier. And yeah, the men that I've
Mhm.
talked to can see where their silence came from, and it's at a younger
Mhm.
age during self pleasure, needing to be quiet and not like and to not be caught again because there was that
Mhm.
negative connotation.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And then I wouldn't mind even just going back to taking men's pleasure out of the box, but really opening up your whole body to experiencing orgasmic pleasure everywhere. Your whole body is a canvas for orgasm, and you can train any part of your body to be orgasmic. Expanding just the notion of it's just in my penis. It's just this orgasm that's um like, felt in the penis where it can actually start to expand through your whole pelvis. It can, or men can have full body orgasms that rise all the way up to the top of their head and all the way down to the bottom of their toes. And then it's also, I just want to mention, we're recording this right now on International Anal Sex Day. And so I would love to invite all men to carefully, consciously explore the power of their prostate. When we take that out of the box and say that it doesn't have anything to do with your sexuality, it just happens to be where this beautiful piece of anatomy is located, and it doesn't mean anything about your orientation.
All right, so. what's the world governing body that declares anal sex day? Where's that coming from?
That I have no idea, but I'm here
Okay.
for it.
I didn't know if there was some UN proclamation for this or what that I missed. All right.
Right. I love that
Perfect.
it's not even now, it's international.
Yeah. Then it must be true.
That's right.
Cool. So to the opposite of pleasure and play, how does trauma, especially
Mm.
sexual, emotional trauma in childhood, how does that impact men's relationships and sex lives as an adult?
It's a direct correlation. So when we're holding trauma in our bodies, especially in our children wounds, those wounds in particular. So that could be sexual abuse, that could be neglect, that could be um, messaging from TV, from parents, from religion. All of that lives in our body, and then our inner children, those wounds, they get triggered almost always in our most intimate personal relationships. They don't get triggered necessarily by parents, by coworkers, by friends, but it's by our romantic partners, the people who we are choosing to be the most vulnerable with. Because it's like, I'm going to be so vulnerable. I'm really going to open up myself. And then there's all of a sudden this like new wound bubbles up because you're being that vulnerable. You're sharing so much. And then if you don't have the tools to see the wound, to befriend it, to give it loving presence, to learn from it, to care for it, that's when we start to shut down. And then communication shuts down, intimacy shuts down, everything starts to shut down, and you're in trauma pattern. And trauma pattern is like putting these blinders on. And it's so isolating that when you are in a trauma pattern, when you're holding trauma, you can't see outside of that trauma. You can't see the people that you care about most. You can't see their needs. You can't express on this level. And that's where it really affects our interpersonal relationships. The places where we want to be the most vulnerable and experience the most amount of joy, usually that trauma says, nope, you don't get that kind of joy. Something's wrong with you.
Yeah. Cool. So Melanie, I know you've been with Mr. Bonk for 26 years, right?
That's right. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So in your relationship experience and wisdom from that, is there anything you wish more men knew?
Mm. Mm. I'm like doing a little flashback through time here. uh, I wish that men knew that if they're in a partnership, it can be a portal to experiencing the highest version of yourself. When my husband and I have healed together, when we've gone through this journey together, it's been, of course, difficult. There's been yelling and screaming, there's been fights. But once you gain these tools, and this is usually what I take my clients through, I take them through three different areas so that way we can gain the tools to um, resolve conflict before it begins, to understand and hold space. So I teach people soulful communication tools because, as I'm sure this conversation has been pretty in depth and open and vulnerable, uh, people hearing this and witnessing our conversation could be having a physical reaction to some of the things I'm saying. Like there could be, oh, all of a sudden my heart is racing higher, or I'm feeling that twist in my stomach. So when we gain these tools, we get to then move into the emotional intelligence phase. So that's gaining social communication tools, moving into emotional intelligence, and that's really understanding and befriending the trauma, understanding the wounds, and then that creates this space to rediscover what sexuality and pleasure means. So it's like this combination, and that's what the arc that our relationship took. So we had to really first understand how to communicate, then we had to own our own triggers, take responsibility for our own actions, learn how to meet each other first, as opposed to always saying I statements. And then that has led us to the most sexual expansion where we've been together 26 years. And every single time we have sex, we're like, holy shit, that was the best time. That was by far the biggest orgasms we've ever had. And then the next time we're like, no, it's this time.
So is there somewhere in your house, like you measure the height of your children? Is there a orgasm meter somewhere?
There will be now. That's a great idea.
Right. Yeah. Then you can you can celebrate the anniversary of your prior best
Mhm.
whenever. All right. Cool. So I know in working with men, I've seen you talk about helping men enter the kingdom in a
Mhm.
relationship. What does that look like in a day to day practice?
Oh, that's beautiful. So that's again, it's I like to use those words kingdom and queendom because we're so disassociated to our own power and to our own right to that power and pleasure. So when I am living in my queendom, when my partner is living in in his kingdom, we are using all of those tools, the soulful communication, our emotional intelligence. So we communicate, we're owning our own behavior. There was so many times where I would take an I statement and make it into a me statement. And so like my husband could be saying, I am feeling this. And then I would say, well, that makes me feel, well, I'm not holding space for him. I'm not actually honoring his emotions if I'm turning them around and using them uh, in an aggressive way even. So owning owning of I think it's just a radical responsibility of our own behavior, our own actions. To me, is really owning that kingdom and queendom, owning the power, owning the pleasure, choosing celebration, choosing gratitude.
If you were part of that mysterious uh, world governing body of sex and sexuality, what's one misconception you would love to see erased forever?
Mm. Well, it's the misconception, and I actually, I'm so happy to talk about this because men are so conditioned with porn. So I would love to get rid of the misconception that a penis needs to be erect to be pleasurable. I think I read something recently where the average man thinks that the average penis is 10 inches long. The average penis is flaccid is 3.6 and hard is 5. But because all we see in porn is one type of penis and it's erect all the time, that is creating so much disconnection, unworthiness, uncompassion for self that I would love to like swipe that all off the board. I would love to tell every penis owner out there that your penis is not judged on its erection status, and in fact, it's actually normal for penises to ebb and flow throughout one sexual experience, to be riding the waves just as they are. Similar to what women do, we just have anatomy that looks a little bit different, and one's more pronounced than the other. But it's so natural for the penis to get hard and soft and everything in the middle. And it's beautiful at every stage of the game. So I would love to empower men with that information. I would love to um, give men permission to just breathe and have a relationship with their penis. I have a relationship with my pussy for sure. I talk to her, I listen to her, I get her advice. And when men start doing that, I that's when I feel like they also like step into that kingdom. Like you can see the physical changes in the way they hold their body when you create conversation with penis. And as a partner to a penis owner, I love to say beautiful affirmations to my husband's face. And then I bend over and I say affirmations to penis and that they're just for him. And sometimes I talk to penis and I'm like, I know, don't listen to the guy upstairs. I'm telling you that you are magnificent, that when we create these relationships, we're really taking that radical step towards empowerment, and I think it's so powerful. So that's what I would love to change today if I could.
Awesome. There are so many great terms coming out of you today that I've never heard, and I really, I want a day for penis owners. I want to
Yes,
see greeting cards and penis affirmations and all sorts of things for that. That
yes, I
sounds
love it.
a wonderful place. Cool. Um, what does bonking better mean, especially compared to what society tells us about sex and intimacy?
Mm. Bonking better is taking orgasm off the table and enjoying pleasure just for pleasure. Bonking better is, like I said before, owning and loving and giving your body parts love and deep honor right now as they are without having to change them. Bonking better looks like total permission to be wild and free and playful and primal in your experience. I mean, let's be real. I have 4 kids. It's not wild and primal every single time. Well, the shit is going down in our house. Like it is loud and wild and crazy. So Bonking Better is using all of those holistic tools to experience this soulful connection where you get to feel the energy of your partner, where the hearts are open, the heart chakra is open, and you're exchanging not only contact with maybe your genitals, but also like your hearts are expressing and communicating with each other. Your mind is in this judgment free zone, and just shame is so far away, it's off the map. Bonking Better looks like understanding that there is no wrong way to do it. There's no wrong body part. It's really just allowing your body to paint with this canvas of your body and just get crazy with the pleasure. Paint all over with pleasure.
Awesome. Melanie, what's the best way for people to find out more about you and connect with you?
My website is melaniebonk.com. And if you go visit my site, you can sign up for my love notes. I send out one really juicy, detailed love note every month that has to do with my personal life, our own journey as a couple. And then I also drip in tools and practices to use throughout the month. And if you visit my website and you go to the freebies tab, there are freebies for all bodies, including a few practices for men. There's a empowering testicle massage that only takes about 2 minutes a day. But when you actually massage your testicles, you're naturally increasing libido, you're increasing your own vitality, and you're naturally increasing testosterone. There's also a men's practice. It's called the 3 pillar practice. I love it. It's connecting the brain, the heart, and the penis. And when all 3 of those are connected and breathing, using breath and mindfulness and allowing that flow, that's a really beautiful way to open up your body into some of those divine practices, like we mentioned earlier in the podcast. So there's a lot of resources at the website for you, for
Awesome.
everybody.
Melanie, I love this conversation. I love your energy. You've had so many insights and terms that like I am particularly excited when I host a show that I keep learning things from. And as a penis owner, I'm glad to learn that there are empowering testicle massages. And so thanks for everything that you're creating and sharing with the world. Again, I love your vibrancy, your openness, and thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you so much. I love that you're creating this space and community for these conversations. So thank you, Andy.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. Please visit realmenfeel.org, see the blog post for this episode, which have all the various links and resources discussed. Wherever you're discovering Real Men Feel, please subscribe, follow, give a like, share this with somebody, post a review or a comment. You can always reach out to me at realmenfeel@gmail.com. And until next time, be good to yourself.